How do you feel about your vote for Donald Trump now?
Well, I feel like perhaps I should have considered some other options.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today, we're counting down our picks for reasons why some of the folks who voted for President Donald Trump are starting to have buyer's remorse.
Ripping me off. You're ripping me off. You're ripping me off. I'm running a trade deficit. That is the level of understanding of the President of the United States.
Number 10, stock market volatility.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
We'll get into the specifics and devastating consequences of Trump's tariffs and their accompanying trade wars, not to mention their effects on America's allies. For now, let's zoom in on their after effects. As a result of President Trump's quote-unquote Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs issued on April 2, 2025, global stock markets were immediately sent into disarray and experienced increased volatility.
The Dow today falling more than 300 points. It began the day down about 1,200 points, only to rise briefly this morning and then drop again. According to the administration, that rally was based on a false social media post claiming that there could be a 90-day pause on all tariffs, except for China.
Largely owing to panic selling of investments due to the economic protectionist policies put into place by the U.S., the stock market crash had some of Trump's staunchest supporters questioning the tariff's effectiveness. Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy, for example, claimed that he had lost $7 million in stocks and crypto, but stopped short of totally pulling his support for the president.
Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand them. I don't. Like, it's more a trade deficit tariff to me. Like, hey, we get this much shit from you and you get this much from us. Let's even that up. Let's get some wacky formula and do tariffs. And everything's in the shitter because of it.
Number 9, he isn't the cryptocurrency messiah some expected.
He's calling it a move to elevate the industry after what the president described as years of corrupt attacks under the Biden administration. Now, unlike traditional reserves of gold, petroleum, or grain, commodities accumulated for strategic security, this reserve would more closely resemble an active portfolio of speculative assets.
On the campaign trail for his 2024 presidential run, Trump positioned himself as the exact right candidate to turn the United States into the cryptocurrency capital of the world. Promising extensive deregulation in the financial sector, Trump ensured that the SEC has eliminated its crypto enforcement program, dismissing, closing, or pausing nearly every crypto-related lawsuit, appeal, and investigation.
Now, President Trump has become the crypto president, and we want to help him with this. This will be something good for everybody. Diversify. This is a free country. Do what you want with your money. But the Biden administration, they didn't want anything to do with crypto.
While that might sound promising for enthusiasts, Trump and his family's ventures into crypto have introduced problematic conflicts of interest, and some have accused him of delegitimizing the burgeoning digital currency's potential. Said Amit Saru for Barron's, quote, "The problem isn't just regulatory uncertainty, it is also the confusion between speculative nonsense and genuine financial innovation."
And there are definitely concerns about conflicts of interest as well, because just right now, for instance, there's a lot of work being done in Congress on stablecoin legislation, and the Trump family is working on a stablecoin as well.
Number 8, his Iran strategy.
I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is wanting to talk.
As noted by The Independent's John Bowden, few could have expected the direction that President Trump has so far taken with regard to Iran. Least of all, conservatives. In April 2025, Trump and U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff headed to Oman to engage in talks with Iranian leadership about scaling back their nuclear program.
President Trump says this country cannot develop a nuclear weapon. and Iran says it might do that if the talks are unsuccessful. So they are critical for Iran, they are critical for stability of the region, and they are moving very quickly. They began a week ago, and they are resuming again today in Rome with President Trump's envoy Witkoff and the Iranian foreign minister.
Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi initially released conflicting statements as to the degree that Iran would denuclearize. But that was still more progress than some establishment neoconservatives like Senator Lindsey Graham and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo are comfortable with. Said Graham, any American deal with Iran, quote, must include the total dismantling of Iran's nuclear infrastructure and include not only U.S. but worldwide supervision.
The Prime Minister said the biggest threat to the state of Israel is a nuclear-armed Iran because they will kill all the Jews with a nuke if they get it. I believe that. So they can't get one. And they could use it, if they had more than one, against Arabs, against us.
Number 7, the issue of birthright citizenship.
The Supreme Court, we know, is set to hear arguments over President Trump's executive order that ends birthright citizenship. The move sets the stage for decision by the summer on 3 separate injunctions blocking the administration from creating a new standard for citizenship.
To Trump, ending the long-standing American policy of guaranteeing citizenship to any child born on U.S. soil is a facet of the larger issue of immigration. As such, an executive order signed on his first day back in office has been met with significant controversy over its legal implications.
Lower courts have blocked the president's order, ruling that it violates the 14th Amendment. But the case before the justices on May 15 is not expected to focus on birthright citizenship, but on whether judges have the authority to block the president's initiatives like birthright citizenship nationwide.
The president's quote-unquote protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship executive order would deny citizenship to those born to undocumented immigrants. While intended to discourage illegal border crossings, Alabama-based law firm Maynard Nexon has pointed out that this may have an unfortunate side effect, that of impacting eligibility for TN visas available to Canadians and Mexican citizens, and may have impacts on other treaty-based non-immigration visa categories.
What we're learning right now is that students and universities, they're all really learning and finding out in real time, basically, Phil, with little to no warning. Essentially, the State Department is deciding what countries' visas to revoke, and they're doing so immediately. And look, yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio posted on social media that he is, quote, taking actions to revoke all visas held by South Sudanese passport holders and effective immediately.
Number 6, immigration woes.
New details tonight about the Maryland man who was deported to El Salvador and why Kilmar Abrego Garcia says he is traumatized by his time at the notorious Secot prison. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland spoke out today after meeting with Abrego Garcia yesterday and revealed he has been moved to a different detention center.
Speaking of immigration, it's worth noting that the ongoing Mexico-United States border crisis is a major focus for Trump. That owes to the fact that it's one of the issues that got him reelected to the presidency in the first place. However, the president's scorched earth approach to handling the issue has garnered backlash from both sides of the political aisle.
NBC News has uncovered concerning details about some of the claims the Trump administration is making in its immigration case against Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. Now, he's the Columbia University grad student who was arrested last month. He's facing deportation after playing a key role in pro-Palestinian protests on campus last year.
Just some of the unpopular measures Trump has taken include allowing ICE greater access and broadening their scope of power, and reopening Guantanamo Bay to potentially detain thousands of migrants. An unintended consequence of Trump's war on undocumented immigrants? Putting a severe dent in sectors of the economy that rely on migrant labor, like construction, agriculture, and childcare.
Nearly 82% of Trump voters said immigration was a very important issue.
I understand they're not citizens, but they've also been productive members of society, and they haven't been convicted of a felony. Can't we figure out a way to have a legal pathway?
Number 5, controversial cabinet picks.
There may be new trouble for President-elect Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The Washington Post broke the news on Saturday that Hegseth paid a woman for her silence years after a sexual encounter at a Republican conference back in 2017.
President Trump's political career has largely been defined by the company he keeps and how loyal they are to him. As such, his second cabinet is mostly an eclectic coalition of the extremely wealthy with no political experience. A number of his cabinet picks have also grappled with public and private battles.
During the hearing, of course, she was pressed numerous times as to whether or not she believed Edward Snowden, the former NSA leaker, was a traitor, and her positions on Russia, of course, as well as her visit to Syria when she was a member of Congress.
These include Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's reported treatment of women, as well as National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard's accusation of being a Russian asset. Most controversial of all, though, would be Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Kennedy's widely publicized anti-vaccine activism and promulgation of conspiracy theories were criticized as having led to unnecessary deaths in the 2025 measles outbreak.
In a Fox News interview, Kennedy suggested measles vaccine injuries were more common than known, contrary to extensive research and facts. He claimed natural immunity to measles gained through infection also protected against cancer and heart disease, another claim that is completely not supported by any research.
Number 4, his attitude towards America's allies.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber.
Almost no other action President Trump has taken while in office has been as confounding as his insistence on antagonizing countries that the U.S. has historically been friends with. This has been most pronounced in his repeated calls to annex Canada and turn it into the 51st state.
We can stand up for ourselves. It's Canada strong. We can stand up for ourselves. We've called out those comments. They're disrespectful, they're not helpful, and they need to stop before, and they will have to stop before we sit down and have a conversation about our broader partnership with the United States.
In Canada, Trump's comments, which appeared to start as jokes before turning serious, have been overwhelmingly condemned, with both former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his successor Mark Carney rejecting them. This goes hand in hand with Trump's comments about taking over Greenland from Denmark, which has been met with a similarly hostile response from the autonomous territory, both its leaders and its general population.
What do you feel about Trump?
What the stupid human in the world like a Trump.
That's what you feel?
Yeah. I mean, we think about US and Trump, this is different. We need maybe work together with US, not Trump.
Number 3, Doge chaos.
In our politics lead, a whistleblower is coming forward with claims that Doge not only accessed data from his agency, but also took a substantial amount of sensitive data with them. According to a disclosure shared with Congress, quote, around 10 gigabytes of data, or quote, the equivalent of a full stack of encyclopedias worth if someone printed these files as hard copy documents, unquote.
Admittedly, billionaire Elon Musk's proposed plan to cut up to $1 trillion from the federal budget is not the worst idea on paper. That said, in actual execution, Musk's seemingly indiscriminate chainsawing away at the inner workings of the American government has been harshly criticized. That's been largely attributed to how the world's wealthiest man has gone about it.
Supporters applauding the careers of the USAID workers who have been fired.
This is the end of 30 years of service. We will never surrender!
These former employees were given Thursday and Friday to clear their desks.
And ostensibly to never return to this building again.
With his Department of Government Efficiency firing and rehiring career civil servants, recruitment of men as young as 19 years old to build its infrastructure, and almost total lack of transparency, contrary to Musk's claims. The billionaire's attempts to insert himself into politics, such as pumping money into a crucial Wisconsin Supreme Court race that conservatives lost, has drawn mass ire and invited the increasingly common vandalism of Teslas.
The pressure is mounting as activists in cities across the world prepare to take to the picket lines for day 2 of the so-called Tesla takedown, calling for a boycott of Tesla and an end to CEO Elon Musk's role in those sweeping federal layoffs.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
Number 2, unpredictability on a global stage.
I have to see, my whole life has been one big negotiation, and I know when people are playing us and I know when they're not, and I have to see an enthusiasm to want to end it. And I think I see that enthusiasm. I think I see it from both sides. But you're going to know soon.
Above all, Trump's supporters and detractors alike await with bated breath to see what the president's next move will be. Trump's impulsiveness and penchant for quick turnarounds have been his most consistent trait across his 2 terms. For example, just look at President Trump's actions on the world's 2 most prominent geopolitical crises: the wars in Ukraine and Gaza.
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate. The level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well.
In Ukraine, Trump has broken with tradition by spurning the country in favor of talks with Russia, and by threatening to abandon his mediation of the conflict altogether. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Trump's proposed solution may sound familiar. He has suggested that the U.S. take ownership of the Gaza Strip, much to the chagrin of pretty much everyone but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Trade wars and tariffs.
How do you feel about paying more for things?
Well, you know, if you find someone who says, I'm happy about paying more for something, you point them out to me. People who already couldn't afford fresh vegetables, who couldn't already afford to put good food on their plate, are the ones that are really going to be hurt by this.
Ah, the moment you've all been waiting for. Since even before his re-election to the presidency, Trump has often spoke of tariffs as the cure-all for economic issues plaguing the United States. Early reactions from experts cautioned against this approach, with some warning that increased costs would be passed down to the consumer. But Trump went his own way.
The real rub is he wants our allies, so to speak, to align their policies towards China with ours. That would mean they would be ceding to us, their sovereignty to negotiate their own deals. That's an awful tough ask.
In the months since, Trump has escalated tariffs on global rival China to a whopping, virtually unprecedented 145%, while imposing a baseline 10% tariff on all U.S. imports. While some have suggested that Trump has a long-term plan for the tariffs, that's hilarious, that will result in a new age of American prosperity, increasing fears of a recession are hard to overlook.
You've got China announcing it's raising retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to 25%, that coming after President Trump hiked the rate of Chinese goods, the rate on Chinese goods coming into America from 104% now to 145%. All of that creating so much uncertainty.
What do you think of President Trump's performance thus far? Is there anything we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.